What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, CamATL, and welcome back to another DFS video with your boy. Drop a like down below because I already know you're going to love it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment anything in the comments section and enter your name into the $50 giveaway that I do every single week on this channel. Welcome into another DFS lineup video at greenlightdfs.com. We have week 4 coming up, approaching us quickly, and this is the final look video. As you guys know, earlier on in the week, we did the first look lineup video where we built a lineup together kind of based off the early look of the slate. And then now in this video, we're going to go position by position and break down the best options I believe at each position in the ways that you can attack this slate to have overall success, plain and simple. Like all of the guys pretty much sum up a core of players at each position that are the best options to utilize into your lineups this week for week 4. Looking for a big week? If you're interested in our optimal lineups over at greenlightdfs.com, you can find those at greenlightdfs.com. You can grab the NFL package. Make sure if you're going to join that, you might as well do it before college football tomorrow, before the big college football slate. That way you get college football included and all that good stuff as well. So anyway, first and foremost, first thing we need to do is go over who's officially out. We got a lot of injury news, some big ones. We've got Austin Ekeler out for Washington. Obviously, that's going to be a bump to Brian Robinson Jr. Brian Robinson's going to get a little bit more work in the pass game, a little bit more. He's not a big pass-catching guy like an Austin Ekeler is, but, I mean, period. With an Austin Ekeler out of that lineup, Brian Robinson Jr. is going to see a lot of work. Tank Dell, who I believe I had in the first look lineup, is going to be out. He's officially out. That's a bump to Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. A whole lot of different options, all right? And we'll get to that. We'll talk about that. But, yeah, Tank Dell is out. So that adds even more value kind of to that game in general where, you know, you're looking for an offense that you can stack that has solid run back on the other end as well. Some good pricing and all that good stuff. But we're going to get to it. Michael Mayer, tight end for Las Vegas, backup for Bowers, is going to be missing. Even more work for Bowers there, as well as Davante Adams, which is the big news. Davante Adams will be missing week 4. That's huge. That's a huge news, and we'll talk about who benefits there. There's a couple guys that I really, really like there because of that as well. Evan Ingram will miss for Jacksonville. Okay, bump obviously to Strange, bump to Christian Kirk, and a few of the other guys. Cooper Kupp will still miss. Devontae Smith will officially miss. It looks like A.J. Brown will be back in that lineup, so that'll be good for them. At least that's what I'm expecting, A.J. Brown to be back. But, yeah, David Njoku is officially going to miss. Like, we got a lot of different options here. Joe Mixon is going to miss again, which puts Cam Akers into play in that game again, Houston-Jacksonville game that I've talked about. Expecting Debo to miss again, which is obviously going to still give that bump to Jennings. You're still going to have that bump to Mason, all those other guys because of that injury as well. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the plays. Starting off at quarterback, I'm at the Greenlight Optimizer over at greenlightdfs.com. You get access to this as well as the optimal lineups and all that good stuff when you join up. Trevor Lawrence is going to be my top overall value against this Houston squad. Like I said, man, in a dome, Trevor Lawrence is a fantastic option, and I really, really like him because of the pairings you have with him as well at good prices. You can put Trevor Lawrence, you can pair him up with Christian Kirk, you can pair him up with Strange, you can pair him up with multiple options there in Jacksonville, and they're all affordable. It makes being able to make a very nice balanced lineup with some studs throughout it and yet still have that upside of Trevor Lawrence and those guys connecting on a regular basis in a dome, which is always good for offense. And good for quarterbacks and good for the air pass game in general. I really like Trevor Lawrence, man, at only 5'7". Another guy you got to consider this week is Justin Fields. Justin Fields has been doing a pretty damn good job. And going against the Colts, again, another game in a dome, is a solid spot for Justin Fields at 5'5". Any quarterback that has the floor that he can give you because of his rushing ability at only the 5'5" range is always going to be an option that's in play. The only issue you deal with Justin Fields is when it comes to the correlation aspect of things. And at the end of the day, you don't have to correlate Fields. Like, honestly, you could run Justin Fields solo. You really could, just because of his rushing ability. Same reason you could run Jaden Daniels solo as well. Both of those guys use their feet so much that they don't necessarily have to be paired with anyone. Okay, so yes, you can run Justin Fields solo. Deshaun Watson, I'm not a huge, projections like him okay as a value option because he's only 5'4". I'm not huge into it because I'm not sure if Vegas will be able to put up much of a fight to where Cleveland really got to do much in the pass game. I mean, with Devontae Adams out, that's such a big deal being out for Las Vegas. Now, I will say this, though. I really like some Vegas guys with Devontae Adams out. Obviously, immediately you get some solid value over there. And there are some guys that I'm expecting to get some really good bumps over there in Las Vegas. So playing Deshaun Watson at quarterback would make sense to kind of, you know, run that opportunity back. Watson's not a guy who's going to do a ton with his feet, so obviously you want to pair him with someone, but Watson at 5'4" is a guy that's definitely serviceable anyway. If you see him in green, their projection has been recently updated, just to let you know, so you know that. Jaden Daniels, price is 6'5", so that's why he's not super high on the list, but he's a guy that I'm really, really, really interested in this week. Jaden Daniels has been doing so much with his feet that he gives you such a solid floor. Like almost Lamar Jackson-esque type quarterback at only 6'5". You know what I mean? Like the dude can run. The dude is a top-notch runner. And again, this is a game in a dome in Arizona. Again, very good for quarterback play. All right. Now, and there's also some good pairing options with him. There's good guys to run on the other end. Marvin Harrison Jr. on the other side. Michael Wilson is a receiver we'll talk about in a little bit. You've got the tight end for, what's his name? The tight end for Arizona, Trey McBride, is going to be missing. So that opens up value for that Arizona side that you can automatically be like, okay, yeah, I want these guys because they're value. And then playing Jaden Daniels on the other end would give you some run back with it. You have Austin Eckler out. The problem is then with Austin Eckler out, I kind of want, you know, Brian Robinson Jr. And Brian Robinson Jr. and Jaden Daniels don't necessarily correlate very well. All right, so it does come down to like one of the most important things and the things I spend the most time on every week is correlation, lineup construction. You got to really try out a bunch of different options to come together with something that just meshes perfect. And on those lineups that mesh perfect and everything kind of correlates and goes well and flows, those are the lineups where you have those huge opportunities. The lineup that I won a few years ago that I won members $70,000 plus in a day with. We took first place in a tournament. We took down 70. I won multiple members $70,000 in that single day that week. We had the stack of Deshaun Watson. We had why am I blanking on his name? The popular Houston. He played for Houston. Hopkins, and then we had a third guy. I can't remember what his name was. But we had those guys, and then we ran it back on the other side with the team playing catch-up as well. So the correlation was just fantastic, and it ended up working out perfectly. And when you have those instances where your stack correlates perfect, and then the other team's playing from behind trying to catch up or whatever, that's where you really reach the top. Now, can you make it to the top without correlating? Sure. Off just complete chance and luck. But when you're correlating, it's the best bet. Because obviously, if a quarterback goes out and has a huge game, most likely he has a receiver or two that also had good games. You feel what I'm saying? Unless he just peppered one guy the entire time and didn't spread it out. All right. Kyler Murray, CJ Stroud, and Caleb Williams are kind of honorable mentions that I like. Kyler Murray, rushing ability still as well. Kind of a good little correlation option. Guys that you can pair with pretty easily there. CJ Stroud on the other side of that game. I feel like maybe a higher ownership is on Trevor Lawrence because of that price. But if you go the opposite way and go CJ Stroud, you're spending more money, obviously. So it's not going to balance as much as the Trevor Lawrence version would. But CJ Stroud paired up with Nico Collins and whatever, like you could really have a big day. You know what I mean? Like a Stroud, Diggs, Collins lineup ran back with Christian Kirk on the other end or something like that. Like, dude, you've got huge potential there. How crazy would it be that I get another takedown with a Houston stack? That would be crazy. Like, and I've considered the Houston stack many times. I want to let that be known. And then Caleb Williams at 5'6" is just an honorable mention guy going against a bad Rams secondary. And just great opportunity for him to be able to show up there. So that's really the player pool that I'm looking at. Those are my favorite options at quarterback. Moving on to running back, Jordan Mason. I've been playing a lot of him lately. A lot of people have been playing a lot of him, and rightfully so. He's getting a ton of touches. I mean, Christian McCaffrey being out. You have Deebo Samuel possibly missing again. You've just got high usage off of that San Francisco offense, and Jordan Mason's really been filling that void. Rachaad White's okay at 6K. I haven't had a ton of him. I'm really kind of falling down to, instead of White at 6K, I'm kind of going a little bit more Brian Robinson Jr. at that 6'1" range with no Austin Eckler. I really like Brian Robinson Jr. this week at 6'1". Cam Akers, Obviously, he's getting a bump with no Joe Mixon, and again, that's in that game. I've mentioned that game a lot. It's in a dome. I mean, you would expect some good fireworks there, even though that Jacksonville total is not very intriguing. I just don't think it's accurate. I would definitely bet the over on the total in this game for sure. I just think both sides should do well. Chuba Hubbard, 5'7", very good option here against Cincinnati. Again, good value on a guy who's going to get a ton of touches here. He is the main guy, and at only 5'7", on an offense that's rejuvenated with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton came in and had a fantastic day, brought Carolina to the W. Like, our boy Bryce Young is gone. He should have been gone, but he's gone officially. Andy Dalton has taken over, and Chuba Hubbard should see more opportunity in that situation. Other guys that I really like Bijan Robinson off, again, opportunity. He gets involved in the pass game. Atlanta's favored here in a dome, at home in Atlanta, I believe. So Bijan Robinson's a good option at 7.4. I just haven't had the need to really spend elite level money. I mean, if I'm spending up, I'm going Bijan Robinson or I'm going Kyren Williams. 7.4 or 7.3. I'm spending up for those two if I'm spending up. Otherwise, I'm going Jordan Mason, who's, yeah, he's spend up still. Like, a lot of the options are kind of in those 6K plus ranges outside of Cam Akers and Chuba Hubbard. Those are the two 5'7" guys I like, Cam Akers and Chuba Hubbard. And then I like Jordan Mason in the 6K range and Brian Robinson. And then for the top level, I like Bijan Robinson and Kyren Williams. Ramondre Stevenson is another guy who's going to get heavy involved in the pass game. That's always good for full point PPR. Yeah, another guy that I like, Warren is expected to miss again, I guess, I believe. Najee Harris should be getting an uptick in usage as well. He's been already getting a ton of uptick in usage. Colts struggled in the beginning of the year bad versus the run. We're getting absolutely gashed. They bounced back and had a decent performance last week, but I don't trust in them. I think Najee Harris could absolutely destroy them in this game. So another honorable mention option. Let's move on to wide receiver. At wide receiver, first guy I want to talk about is Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker will be seeing a big benefit with no Devontae Adams, and he's only 3.6. This is a guy that opens up so much in your lineups. Speaking of him, I want to mention another guy, Michael Wilson. Now, we talked about the tight end for Arizona being out. This is a high-usage guy being out. Trey McBride is a highly targeted player on this offense. Him being out is going to be even more looks for Michael Wilson at 4.2. Michael Wilson is somebody that I definitely have a ton of interest in here. And I just really like that spot for him, especially if you have like Jaden Daniels or you're running Kyler Murray. Of course, you want to pair him. But if you're going like a Jaden Daniels lineup, running it back with something from the Arizona side would make sense. And Michael Wilson at 4.2, these two guys are my favorite values on the entire day when it comes to wide receiver. Trey Tucker, Michael Wilson, and then in that mid-range, you got Christian Kirk at 5.2. My ultimate favorite is going to be Rashee Rice. Okay, Rashee Rice and Nico Collins are kind of like 1A, 1B. Okay, Rashee Rice has the benefit of having Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. And, I mean, he is just getting involved so heavily. His target share is absolutely ridiculous. This dude is breaking out this year. Yeah, I mean, he's the highest targeted guy in the entire league, man. So Rashee Rice at 7.3, he's going to be one of the best options that we have. Nico Collins, I've been siding with slightly over him straight up, if I'm going to be completely honest, solely off of correlation. Like, as I'm building, I'm really liking certain routes, and because of the offenses and stuff that I'm getting involved in, Nico Collins has been just being played more. For example, let's think of Rashee Rice. If you play Rashee Rice, sure, you can play Rashee Rice by himself, but let's look at the correlation opportunities. There's not much on the Chargers side I really care for. So Rashee Rice is kind of just going to be a lone guy, which you could do that. You could do that. But, I mean, why when you could go Nico Collins and then you could pair him up with, you could have Stephon Diggs and Stroud at quarterback, running it back on the other side with Christian Kirk. I talked about that stack just a minute ago. Like, it makes more sense that way. More correlation, just more possible upside. Jawan Jennings isn't another good opportunity if Deebo Samuel, in fact, does miss like I'm expecting him to do. Deontay Johnson had a huge game. His target share is crazy on Carolina. When Andy Dalton took over last week, Deontay Johnson got over a 30-something target share. Okay? Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so I love that dude. He is a target monster, and I expect him to continue getting targeted. But that's about it. That's the core there for wide receiver as well. For tight end, Brock Bowers is your go-to guy. Brock Bowers is my guy. I've been trying to get as much of him as I can get. Outside of him, Elijah Higgins, who's going to be benefiting from, why can't I remember his name? McBride. Elijah Higgins will benefit from McBride, so he's a guy that you could also go with. But man, Brock Bowers is in a popping spot. This dude is a monster. Okay, like he hasn't gone too crazy, I don't believe, right, this year, but this dude is an athletic monster who is in a prime position with no Davante Adams to break the hell out. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. This dude is in a fantastic position to break out, and I definitely could see that happening this week. I would not be surprised in the least if this dude broke out for sure. So a fantastic option there for him. And yeah. Anyway, outside of that, I talked about Elijah Higgins. He's the other guy I'm really interested in. No Njoku. Jordan Akins is a very solid option as well. But that's about it at tight end. Nothing too crazy. Now, a defense, really, it's open. You can do whatever you want here. You can go the Jets defense at 3-7. You can go the Browns against Las Vegas with no Davante Adams. No, I would not play the Browns defense if you have Bowers in your lineup or if you have any of these Vegas players. There's just no reason. It doesn't correlate very well. You can go the 49ers, sure. A defense that's popping pretty well for me, and projections actually has them as the best point per salary, is the Falcons defense at home facing New Orleans. Now, New Orleans has had a ton of success at times, but the Falcons defense at home here with that those amazing safeties up top could really do pretty well against this New Orleans offense. At 2-6 at home, I mean, you're getting a home defense at 2-6. And what I mean, I've talked about this before, like, at the end of the day, sometimes if you're punting your defense, get the home defense. I mean, take the home team. That's a punt if you have to. If that makes everything else click, do your thing. Unless there's a defense in a week where you're just like, man, this team could break the slate. And this defense could score multiple touchdowns and break the slate, then do that. But if there's nothing that's sticking out to that extent, then, I mean, punt it. I mean, most of the time I don't have to punt most of the time. Like, I'm okay with punting though. But, and I'm also not too fond of spending up at defense either. Like, I get the rest of my lineup together and then I start figuring out, okay, I really like this. Like, if I'm really struggling at my defense once everything's together, I'm like, okay, I really like this guy. But maybe if I drop down to this receiver on the same team that's just slightly cheaper, it'll give me a nice solid bump up at that defense and just make me feel a little safer. Plus, this defense feels like it's got some better upside. So then I'll make that decision. You feel what I'm saying? But again, it's about correlation. It's about roster construction. Those are some of the biggest keys in having success in DFS lineups, okay? Thank y'all for joining me as always, baby. About a 20-minute video covering this slate for week 4. Hopefully I was able to get everybody on the right track, man. Broke down every position, really pointed out the best core of guys that you need in your lineups this week. Thank y'all for joining me as always. You play these core guys we talked about, you should find success in week 4, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.